SpongeBob SquarePants is one of those favorite shows that I love watching on television. Other than Angry Beavers, Hey Arnold, and Rugrats, SpongeBob shows its breaking points, featuring variety of many genres from action to drama. This cheery animated kids show features a happy-to-go-lucky, hard-working sponge named SpongeBob, who goes on adventures with his best friend, neighbor, Patrick Star, known as the dumb, fat sea star. On the other hand, Squidward is a mean and bossy squid who's always bragging about himself. Mr. Krabs is the owner of the Krusty Krab and is a crab who is greedy and wants everything free for himself so that he wouldn't have to pay for his own money. Otherwise, he would act dramatically towards others. Pushing that background information about the show aside, I'll tell you about my story now. One day, I got sick from school because I had caught the stomach virus, which means I can't find a way to stop puking every 3 minutes. Great. Anyways, I turned on the TV and went to the Nickelodeon station to watch SpongeBob. One of my favorite episodes I prefer watching were from series 1, 2, 3, and a bit of 5 and 6. According to my FIOS TV guide, it said that a new episode of SpongeBob SquarePants was releasing about an hour later, as both my eyes were wide with astonishment. I was excited to see it, despite my enthusiasm. The flu took over me like a demon trying to get into my body. I vomited onto my soft cold blanket, but I didn't care. A few minutes passed. After the second episode of SpongeBob finally ended, an advertisement showed up with a male announcer saying this casual, cheery voice, like in other Nickelodeon commercials, "Don't go away. A new SpongeBob SquarePants episode is going to air about 5 minutes, so if you watch this episode once, it will never air again on television." I smiled for a second, but then stopped abruptly. I repeated what the announcer's words said in my head, and I looked confused. Why would they show an episode for only one time on television and not air it again? I looked at the clock and it was around 12:55, exactly 5 minutes before the episode started. The commercial started to play onto the screen for about 3 minutes before going back to the advertisement. But this time the announcer started to say something else. "Now showing a new episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. I repeat, if you watch this special episode once, it will never air again on television." That's what I thought he said. After this, the commercial then cuts to the new show. The opening sequence starts normally, as usual, but the main animation looks some sort of off, which makes the song not sync, and then the intro ends. The show cuts to the title card as loud and low-heavy distorted buzz started to fill the speakers. I covered my ears as soon as the sound stopped for what seemed to be about 6 seconds. The title card had a blue background with the white usual SpongeBob front that read SpongeBob's Hallucination. I started to think of this was obviously a joke, but curiosity knocked me hard to like a bullet again, saying that it was not. The music wasn't playing at this part, but I could have sworn I heard a woman screaming playfully and faintly in the background as the words started to flicker red. It obviously might have been my imagination. No, actually, I heard that for real. The title crew didn't even show up. No animation, directors, storyboard artists, nothing. It just skipped to the episode. The episode started off with the outside look of SpongeBob's house without the usual bubble transition to his pineapple house. It looked soft and rotten. The tops of it was landed downwards, and the skin around the house looked bright yellowish. The windows looked like sort of broken, as if someone threw a rock at one of them. The audio starts to get with a loud and low twisted tune, what sounded like the old film projector playing in the background. Accompanied by the distorted sound of an unknown voice singing, a voice overlapped one of the sounds with what sounded like Patrick, telling SpongeBob that he's outside. The voice then got deeper than usual, and it sounded like if it was a middle-aged man who was imitating Patrick in a normal voice, but slightly pitched down. As the distorted tune gets mysterious than before, the voice called out to SpongeBob again. The camera then cuts to the broken windows, and first one was SpongeBob. He was sitting on the floor, what appeared to be in his kitchen room. One of the walls was rotten as well, as if they were peeling off before turning gray, and one of those barrels that SpongeBob uses to own were on the ground broken. The camera angle cuts us back to SpongeBob, sitting with his legs to his chest and his hands around them. The deep voice of Patrick called out to SpongeBob once more, and another voice tried to do the same, but I couldn't make out of what the other voice was trying to tell him. The song gets louder and more obscure at this point during the next 2 seconds. The camera then crossfades right to the side of SpongeBob, showing his wide bloodshot eye. Looking off camera and dry lips, his head looked like it was a bit of a different color, sort of a dark yellow, and the walls of the kitchen room soon began to change quickly. For a few seconds, he looked at something by him as if there were something or someone else with him. The camera abruptly shot to Gary, who was eating his food as usual bowl. A second passed and Gary turned into a hunk of rotten meat. By the name of Gary's bowl had been scribbled out, and the camera was shot to a whole kitchen room. Many slow, inaudible voices were playing at this point. The screen then resembled to a negative and original colors back and forth as the camera started shaking. The colors of the kitchen room started to change at this point, and the camera angle shot back to SpongeBob, looking now afraid. The voice of Patrick was loud and not deep this time. He repeatedly called out to SpongeBob's name 3 more times before the impossible video overlaps, changing colors. One was a girl in high heels crushing a woman, or a worm, while the second one was a person split dissolving, and the third one was a girl disemboweling herself in a gruesome way. During that time, she screamed out in agony as raw fear as she felt the sharp end of what seemed to be her weapon pierce through her stomach. The fourth video showed of an old clip of a baby crying in a bed with a woman sitting beside her and start to play with her. The horrifying thing is that the baby's ears were inverted and her mouth was overbite, revealing 2 front teeth. I lost it all at that point and vomited onto my blanket and onto the floor. It was like a large spill. I coughed harshly after, but my hand over my forehead and lied down on the couch, returning to watch the episode. The fourth video faded out and the rest of the colors had stopped abruptly, and the camera cuts to SpongeBob in the reflection. Looking grosser than ever, worms were wriggling out of his holes, one of his eyes had popped out of her sockets, and his mouth was wide open, revealing a lost tooth. His whole head had been prunely white, as if it was drawn in realistic style. One of his hairs were standing out in front of each side of his face. A sound of a woman screaming in pain began to play, panning from left to right in the speakers. The other soundtracks stopped at this point, fading out, but the show of the sound of the wind chimes can be heard in the background, accompanied by Patrick's deep voice singing SpongeBob's name. Now back to his scared look again. SpongeBob got up and tried to walk, crawl, or do whatever he could to get to the window before putting his face out of it. The camera then cuts to the view of the outside and the pathway to SpongeBob's house. Various buzzes begin to play loudly, as the speakers like a group of bees. The sky was black and white, large particles black starts fuzzing in the air, while said brown particles start to move around the floor like flies. The background during the time showed a clip of cells joining together while moving around. The camera abruptly shot back to SpongeBob's gloomy face. Patrick's voice then called out to SpongeBob in that sing-song voice again. "Leave me alone!" SpongeBob shouted at it. "SpongeBob?" the voice asked him. "What do you want from me?" The deep voice answered something, but I couldn't really make out before a picture zoomed in into a black and white shot of a woman's face that was totally bruised up and beaten. Her eyes were misplaced onto her forehead, and she had a scraggly black hair. Her mouth was wide open in absolute shock, while blood ran down the left side of her cheek. The picture showed up again for a split second, before a loud screech tore through my ears. I vomited some more and put my head back onto the arm of the couch. Grotesque photos of death, murder were quickly overlapping, and the screen was the whole kitchen room began to shake violently. One of SpongeBob's picture frames, his refrigerator, everything was falling down on the ground, and the walls were peeling off faster than ever. Colors flashed again on the screen like it was a party or something, and the loud noises of animals dying were playing in the background as if they sounded like they were from a slaughterhouse. The noises from the obscure colors stopped for about 20 seconds, and then the look on SpongeBob's face grew out of raw horror. The noises were back and growing more fierce as SpongeBob ran out of the kitchen room, crying his eyes out. SpongeBob opened the door that leads to the living room as the noises got more indistinguishable than ever. The voice of Patrick called out to SpongeBob again, saying that he's here. SpongeBob looked around the room, but saw nothing. Tears were quickly streaming down his face, like a waterfall, as he got onto his desk, writing his last words, what appeared to be his journal. I can't tell if this is a dream. I was in utter shock when he said this sentence. The voices and the noise grew louder than before, abruptly ends to the hissing noise of static. The episode ends with the usual credits, but there was no music, and the words were horizontally flipped. What could I say about this episode? Needless to say, I am scared out of my mind after I saw it. I went onto my computer to look up the title of the episode, but no results showed up. Nothing. Not only this one little episode could change my entire outlook of SpongeBob SquarePants. It was still messed up, nevertheless. After watching it, it made me have nightmares later that night. Despite my curiosity, there was a bunch of questions that randomly popping into my head about the episode. Why did SpongeBob have this horrid hallucination? What caused him to do this? Was SpongeBob even alive at the end of the episode? Pushing these questions aside, there was another left me speechless to this day. How did the authors get away with making such a odd and abnormal episode? Wow, this was definitely something. I'm not gonna definitely deny this one bit. And that, my little pretties, was SpongeBob's Hallucination. A SpongeBob Lost episode creepypasta written by GageDaRemixer. I think that's right, yeah. My final thoughts on this story? Well, I gotta say, wasn't really interested in this story when I first came across it. I believe it was sometime in 2018 or 2019, because I started getting into creepypastas back sometime in 2019. So, yeah, and that was when I met the Shadow Reader. I got a lot of things to say about this story. I mean, I remember Xeronex actually narrated this story, 2 years ago, as well as Leonard Boblia official. I actually listened to the Formidable Robot narrate this story too. So I thought I would go ahead and, read this story. Now, my final thoughts on the story. Well, I'm gonna definitely be honest when I say this. This story was definitely crazy. I mean, it's good and I like it, but I do have a few things to say about this story that I did not really care for. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. It's just my opinion per se, because this story is just basically my opinion. But I'm gonna say right here and right now that this story was definitely it was an interesting concept. I'm not gonna deny it. But at the same time, I'm gonna say right now that this story actually was pretty messed up, to be completely honest. I mean, I'm gonna sit here and say this right now that this story, I mean, it does have a pretty interesting concept, stating, why SpongeBob was, having hallucinations, hearing the voice of Patrick when Patrick's not really there. I mean, I do like the concept of this story, not gonna lie, I do like the concept of that. I do like that it has a good concept regarding that. I'm not gonna deny that one bit. I mean, the story seemed a bit cliched as well, seeing it a special episode on TV saying it only airs once and never shows again. I mean, I'm gonna say right now that's one of the cliches I did notice in the story because it involved well, it involved mainly a really it involved something really what was I trying to say? Oh yeah. It did involve something really weird with the concept. I mean, the concept was a little bit cliched at one point. I mean, there were a few couple cliches in the story, but I get that this is like an older story, and I'm gonna give it benefit of the doubt that the author did manage to try and put something, decent or new into the story. So I'm not gonna deny that one bit. However, though, I did notice some few things that I did see. SpongeBob having, hallucinations, hearing, women, basically a few, some random videos show up with, people, with, really messed up concepts. Like, basically one of the girls, actually was, disemboweling herself. I'm like, I mean, I think it's just there for shock, to be completely honest, because that didn't really add up in the story. I mean, I don't really see, why would a person, do that and a woman, screaming or something, or, I mean, all those, hidden videos during, SpongeBob's hallucination. I mean, I can understand one thing if he's, like, having a bad dream or something, but that is just, I think it's just there for shock because it doesn't really provide anything with the storyline with this story. I mean, that's just me because I honestly can't see that in a SpongeBob episode. I get it's a creepypasta, so I'm giving it that, but putting that stuff on there, which has, SpongeBob, basically at the end of the episode, what really did happen was the ending of the episode. Like, the ending of the episode where, SpongeBob writes the note. I mean, saying, I can't tell if this is a dream. There's no explanation to if SpongeBob was alive or dead. I'm pretty sure he might have been dead, but that's just me, though. But, you guys might have your different opinions on that. But to me personally, the story did somewhat okay. It's an okay SpongeBob pasta, but there were a lot of cliches in this story that, I mean, I'm not saying all the cliches were bad. I mean, I will get that they're overused in a sense. I mean, it did seem of an interesting concept, but the ending of this story was not really satisfying. It basically just dumps a bunch of questions in there, not really giving like an explanation to, of like, was SpongeBob alive? Was SpongeBob dead? What happened or something? Why was he having hallucinations or something? I mean, I really would have liked it if there was an explanation and the ending extended. It kind of expand a little bit just so we get a little bit more information, so to speak. That's probably just me, but you guys might have, something else maybe you would like to share that I did not point out, but if you guys do, feel free to let me know. Anyways, with that being the case, that being said, I'm gonna sit here and say this right now that this is just my own opinion. If you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be I'm gonna get this one a 5 out of 10. I'm giving it a 5 because it's not a bad story. It's not a bad story. It does have somewhat of an interesting concept, but the only things I could really say that I did not like was, the shocking concepts when it came to the, the hidden videos that were in the SpongeBob episode, especially the one where the girl, basically was disemboweling herself. Oh my god. I mean, the shocking subject matters like that. I mean, I didn't go too much into detail about it, but I did censor it as much as I can. But I don't think it really played out well. It didn't play out well in the story, so yeah, that could be left out. But, and the cliches, I mean, I'm willing to excuse the one cliche that, the person saw it on TV, but the fact that it said it's you can only see this episode once but never again, that's a cliche. I did notice that in the story. And the ending wasn't really that satisfying. I wish the ending would have been explained better. But other than that, it's an okay SpongeBob pasta. Not great, but not bad either. Anyways, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload. So that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.